Hello, NYC Schools Tech Summit participants. I'm Lisa Nielsen, Senior Director of Digital Literacy and Inclusion at DIIT. It's been so much fun working with everyone to develop and implement innovative practices as New York City schools have moved to remote learning. I'd like to celebrate some of the things we've all accomplished. We've gone one-to-one in just a few months. We've also raised the bar for digital accessibility. Today, we must assume that any content we create will be used by someone who needs assistive tech, either for a disability or for translation purposes. We've supported literally tens of thousands of you in making accessible content via our remote classes and online communities. And we've had fun. From Bitmoji classrooms to Google Classrooms, you've all jumped in and learned so much about educating in new and innovative ways. As a result, we've moved several years into the future in just a few months. Thank you for joining us for our first virtual summit, our great yearly reunion for staff across the city. We look forward to learning with you today and sharing what we've learned at hashtag NYC Schools Tech. If you want to reach me, you can find me on Twitter at InnovativeEDU. Bye now.
Hey, New York City Tech Summit. I'm Clay Smith, Program Manager for the Office of Digital Inclusion and Accessibility. Congratulations on making it through the school year. You took on the task of upgrading your skills practically overnight, learning a new teaching model to support all of your students. We are in awe of what you have done. When the emergency hit, we at DIIT moved quickly to escalate a number of projects we had in the works. One of those was Identity for All. We created student accounts for every child in New York City. These accounts will stay with our students from 3K through graduation. The unique thing about these accounts is that they allow our students to access Google's G Suite, Office 365, Zoom, and a number of other single sign-on applications. And by the way, you also have access to all of these with your schools.nyc.gov account. We're also working to provide schools the necessary administrative controls to do their day-to-day business. We're looking forward to our students and staff having a more seamless experience with a single identity. Oh, and accessibility? It's still a big thing. So be sure to make your school websites accessible by December. Someone in all of our communities will benefit.
Hello, I'm Nick Shepis, DIT, father of the Spock program. Wanted to thank you for coming to the Tech Summit and thank you for all the hard work you did during this remote learning COVID craziness we've experienced the last 3-4 months. I know it hasn't been easy. It hasn't been easy for me either, and the days have been long and things have been crazy. But looking back, I don't think any of this would have been possible without all of your effort. The Spock program has been amazing in this time of need, and all of the collaboration, all of the feedback, all of the testing, all of you helping each other out, the community, the family, everybody just reaching out, putting out a hand, lifting people up. It's just been phenomenal, and it's just so heartwarming to see that we have such an amazing outreach of ed tech pioneers and family that I don't think any of this remote learning would have been possible without you. So I wanted to say thank you, thank you, thank you, and give yourselves a big pat on the back, because remote learning is a thing now. It's not going anywhere, and it was successful because of you. It's not over. Summer school has been interesting, and September is even going to be more interesting. So we're in it together. We always said that. You're not alone. And we're going to do our best to keep you informed, to keep you in a loop, and we're going to make this thing happen. So good luck. Try to enjoy the rest of your summer, and we'll see you in September. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Hello, NYC Schools Tech Summit attendees. My name's Laura Ogando, and I'm one of the program managers for the Office of Digital Literacy and Inclusion. And I just want to start by saying we made it. It's definitely been one of the most interesting years. And although it hasn't been the most ideal experience, I think we should definitely focus on the positives. Teachers quickly sprang into action, getting remote learning up and running, finding creative ways to connect with their students and families, and really making the most of a tough situation. As we move forward, I hope we take the lessons from this experience and use it to make ourselves the very best educators we can be. One of the things I'm taking away is the need for us to really think about digital literacy and digital citizenship as vital pieces of our curriculums. Now, more than ever, we have recognized that there's not just one technology teacher in the building, we're all technology teachers. That's something I've been saying for the past 10 years. We are all technology teachers. We all need to make sure that we are staying up to date and really trying to hone our practice so that we can use technology effectively across all content areas. Technology isn't a subject, it's a tool. And now we need to make sure we're using these technology tools to engage with our students, to teach, and to prepare them for the 21st century. So I hope that means that as you prepare for whatever September looks like, you're thinking about how you're going to implement a digital citizenship curriculum with your students. This work is designed to support our students in becoming the best versions of themselves online, to know how to use digital tools effectively, to learn how to be citizens in our ever-evolving world, to equip them with the skills to make smart choices with their online exchanges, and ultimately how to use the power of the internet and technology to become the best versions of themselves. That's what digital citizenship is all about. So I really hope that that's something we can take with us moving forward. And lastly, no matter what happens in this upcoming school year, we are going to be stronger than ever. I hope that you enjoy this summit, and hopefully we'll see each other in person really soon. Bye, guys.
Hello, my name is Jojo Farrell, and I'm from DIT's EdTech program and one of the organizers of the NYC Schools Tech Summit. Damn, that was rough what we just went through. March really feels like a lifetime ago. I hope you're finding some time to relax and recharge. You certainly deserve it. I want to thank you for being here with us today at our first ever remote summit. Watching the NYC Schools Tech community step up was really beautiful to watch. I'm curious to know how many of you used to hear things like, why do you go to all those certifications or weekend PDs, meetups in the evening at Google, tech conferences in the summer? My bet is they don't ask you that anymore. You were the ones that your colleagues leaned on. You got late night texts. You sent support videos. You shared your screen for a quick demo. We couldn't have done what we just did without you. You have my respect and admiration, and I'm proud to be your colleague. I can't wait until we can be together in person again. And until then, please stay safe.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 8th NYC Schools Tech Summit. I'm Jane Pook, Chief Digital Communications Officer in the DOE's Division of Instructional and Information Technology. This is our first virtual summit, and I must say I do miss seeing all of you and feeling the amazing energy that you generate. An advantage of doing this virtually is that you can participate from, well, anywhere, from the comfort of your air-conditioned apartment, from your favorite vacation destination, from a park, or from your air-conditioned apartment with a park in the background. You also don't need to wear anything special, not even pants. Please do keep them on if you're in a public place, and masks, like pants, are always a good choice in public places these days. Now, by any measure, this has been an unprecedented year. In case you haven't heard this lately enough or from anybody, I want to acknowledge the grace with which each of you pivoted in March with your lesson plans, and when your lesson plans and who knows what else were upended because of the move to remote learning. I know that many of you are also parents of school-age children, and you had the double whammy of teaching your students and ensuring that your own children were attending school. Please accept my gratitude and admiration. Now, despite the fact that our circumstances at the summit are different this year, what remains the same is that we have terrific programming for you. We have insightful speakers, inspiring stories, and interesting ideas. We also have a virtual vendor floor, which is a Microsoft team where you can chat with technology vendors, fellow attendees, and other DOE staff. So be sure to check that out after the event. Please use hashtag NYC Schools Tech to keep the conversation going on social media. You know, we've trended on Twitter every year, starting with 2015, so keep the streak alive. In fact, why not start now? You can share a favorite memory from a previous NYC Schools Tech Summit, post a picture of yourself in your favorite mask, post a picture of yourself and your quarantine roommates, and as you listen to upcoming speakers, share your reflections on what they're saying using hashtag NYC Schools Tech. We'll kick things off now with a few words from my boss, Anurag Sharma. He's the DOE's Chief Information Officer. Calling Anurag.
Hi, Jane. Hi, all. Welcome and thank you for coming to this event. My name is Anurag Sharma. I am the Chief Information Officer here at the Department of Education, New York City. I know we met briefly last year when I got the privilege of getting introduced by our Chancellor for a couple of minutes at the summit last year. Was really looking forward to meeting all of you in person this year. But we're doing this virtually, and I'm glad we're able to have the event virtually. In terms of my background and my experience, I have worked for the City of New York for 16 years. The Department of Education is my 4th city agency. I've worked with 3 city agencies in the past, where I've had the honor of serving New York City in terms of helping the agencies roll out their programs through technology advancement and making sure that we have the technology that works for our New York City residents, for our employees, and making sure our agencies are getting more and more efficient in their day-to-day function with the use of technology. That has been my work for the last 16 years. And I bring all that experience to the Department of Education and in ensuring that we can continue that same level of technology advancement, but at this point, serving the greater purpose of making sure that we can provide better technology resources for our teachers, for our students, and help them in their journey through the New York City school system and their important years of education and instruction. So that's been our goal since day one that I came on board. And yeah, you know, we are in very, very interesting times. COVID has challenged all of you, and I have a lot of admiration for all our educators for the amount of work that has gone in over the last 4 or 5 months in ensuring that our students get the best possible instruction given the circumstances. We at DIT are going to continue to do this. In the past, as I said, I worked for the City of New York for 16 years, and we have seen so many different public health related emergencies and crises or weather related issues that have derailed our city in the past, nothing has challenged technology and nothing has relied on technology that much as COVID has. Because everybody's working from home, because everybody's learning from home, the technology has been challenged to make sure that the tools are there, sustainable tools, thought through systems that actually help everybody work in the environment that we are all in is definitely a challenge that me and my team are up for it. We have done a lot of work over the last 4 or 5 months to do exactly that and help our families and students and teachers as much as we can. Let me highlight a few of the things that we have been doing over the last few months. The things that I'm going to talk about, a lot of them have come from the feedback I have got during my visits in November, December, in January, when I went out to schools. A lot of principals were gracious enough to bring us in, I and my team, to sit down in their offices, have a conversation, walk through their corridors and classrooms, get a sense of how the devices are working in the schools, how's the broadband in the schools, what are the other technological challenges that the schools are facing, how can DIT work closely, both from a relationship point of view, but also from an implementation and service provider point of view for our schools and teachers. So we brought all that information back. We put that into sort of a plan of how we want to really make systemic changes in our environment that can best support our teachers and students and principals and our families. And so we're continuing to do that work. A lot of this will be in what you've experienced from us during the COVID. So one of the things we already had started working before COVID came in was issuing a DOE account for all our students. So right now we have integrated with our ATS system, and all students that are enrolled get a DOE issued account and password from the DOE. What that does is, and what I fundamentally believe is, having that digital ID for every student allows our students to have that single sign-on experience, sort of an identity for all, so that once they log into a common place, they have access to a whole set of technology tools that are customized and built for them so that that can enhance their learning experience. And we want a very similar experience for our teachers and educators as well. So you saw that coming out during the COVID period. In conjunction with that, we launched Teach Hub 2.0, which is a custom homegrown portal that we developed in DIT and offered it for our teachers and students because we wanted that experience for our teachers and students. We wanted to ensure that with a single sign-on, you can get to your G Suite or Office 365 or Microsoft Teams or Adobe or Minecraft and all of these different tools that schools use and they love. We want to make that more accessible from anywhere, any place, any device. Bringing that access levels to our teachers and students was definitely up on our agenda. And I'm happy that we were able to do this. Really looking forward to how this tool is going to serve you in the next school year. There's a feedback mechanism in Teach Hub 2.0 that I would encourage teachers to use and give us feedback, because we'd love to hear from you on how that portal is working for you. And please help us sort of plan the next wave of improvements on the Teach Hub portal and make it even better and more meaningful and useful for all you educators. So something definitely to look forward to, and we'll be looking forward to your feedback from that portal. The other project I want to highlight is you've read about it widely in the press and in the news. We've distributed 320,000 iPads to students who wanted it, to families that asked for it. We started with the students in temporary housing, in foster care, students with disabilities, and then we went and distributed to every student who asked for. These iPads came with a T-Mobile 5G service, and so it came with the broadband capability. I'm happy to announce that we have the data coverage and data plans that extend up to June 2021 on these iPads, so that all throughout the next school year, students who have these iPads will get to keep them and also have the connection and the connectivity to access tools like Teach Hub, use their DOE accounts and get access to all of these systems. In addition to all of this work, what we also did was ensure that we roll out a central G Suite tenant that was accessible and authenticated through our DOE accounts for both teachers and students. The central G Suite provides the lightweight LMS feature that Google provides with the Google Classroom feature, the Google Docs and Sheets and all of the other Google tools that that the teachers love and like to use, and so do our students. So we provided that centrally. We have about, I think, 300 schools that are now set up in that central G Suite tenant. We'd love to have more schools set up so that centrally we can provide the enterprise class of the G Suite software for our teachers and students, and enable the reporting and all the other cool functions that the G Suite brings along with it. We also did something similar with Zoom. We knew that Zoom is a tool that teachers love to use for the video conferencing with their students. My own two kids use Zoom quite a bit in their schools. So wanting to make sure that when the Zoom security issue happened, that our team was quickly able to get on the phone, talk to the management and senior leaders at Zoom. We also talked to their CEO. We really pushed them to make sure that they were able to make the changes in their software that enable it to become a lot more secure, with the intent that we can quickly bring it back in a much more secure way at no cost to our schools and bring that technology back to our teachers and students. So hopefully that was a big help for all of you, and we'll continue to expand the Zoom usage across the board. We obviously, as some of you know, have access to all the Microsoft productivity tools. The Office 365 set of features are all available for students and teachers, as well as Microsoft Teams is available for all of the students and teachers to use for video conferencing purposes. And again, it is secure, accessible through the DOE accounts. So we ensured that that was all in place at this beginning of the COVID crisis. And then we started working, once we had that set up, we also started working on enhancing our existing systems like STARS and Nixa to make sure that we can add the enhancements to the systems that support the teachers, either in attendance tracking, as simple as possible, so that we don't. We knew that attendance tracking would be very hard given everybody was learning from home, but we tried to build something very simple that would be, as less burdensome as possible for the teachers, and be able to capture some level of attendance on the level of student engagement on the online platforms. We rolled out STARS for that. Nixa is our family facing portal, as a lot of you know. We pushed to get a lot of the families to subscribe to our Nixa portal. I'm happy to announce that we have about 410,000 students and their families that are subscribed to Nixa right now. We hope to keep pushing and getting that number as high as possible before the start of next school year. And all of these tools are helping us, put together sort of an ecosystem where we can allow for, if we are remote and if everybody's working remotely or in some blended learning fashion, we wanted to ensure that we have a way to digitally distribute information to our families, students, and teachers. So as an example, when the report cards, when the time came for the issuance of report cards, we used our TeachHub 2.0 portal and said, hey, what if we were able to present the report card at their portal, and with a single sign-on experience, the student was able to access the report cards. And if we did the same thing with Nixa and the families were able to access the report cards, that would be an easy digitized way of distributing report cards to our families and students. So we worked on that and we built that just in time before the end of the school year. And so we're going to continue to do these things that these technology roadmaps and initiatives that are going to help our students and teachers and principals. Again, all of these things that I'm talking about, that I have talked about, are again systemic things. None of these things that we have built are temporary or are going to phase out eventually. We are still sticking to our original plan that I was talking about that we had when I came after the principals visits into the schools and the feedback that we got. But we wanted to ensure that even if we are in COVID, let's make sure we consistently make progress on that plan. We don't take 2 steps forward and 1 step back. We need to just continue to make progress, because this is to us, this is mission critical. And so we're going to continue to push technology in a very pragmatic way, but also making sure we can be rapid and quick in our response for our schools. Going forward, we have a lot of plans. We want to ensure that there is a system set up for how the iPads that are being distributed come back to the schools, and how the devices get recalled and managed and tracked, because I think that's an important component for the next school year. We are also thinking of stabilizing and making sure that as more and more schools sign up for the central G Suite tenant, we have a team in place that can help with migration. If certain schools choose to migrate their local domain into a much more secure and enterprise grade G Suite that the central offers, then we have the team to help with that work as well. And that team is already up and running and engaging with schools as we speak. So that work is going on in the future. We are thinking about a learning management system as another offering for our schools. We're working through the logistics of funding and procurement, and if all of the funding is approved and if things move as quickly as we want them to, then that would be something we would love to offer our students and families in the future. So that's something that we're really excited to look forward to. In the end, in closing, I will say that what I said before, which is we have huge admiration for all you educators for what you do, a lot of respect for day in, day out work that you put together. I hope that you see DIT as a partner in your technology journey and your teaching journey, and we would love to work with you, would love to hear from you, because we want to make sure that whatever is coming out in terms of technology for our school system meets the needs of our teachers and students and families and the principals, the entire system. So that's our goal. Nothing short of that is going to be satisfactory for us. So we will continue to do that. I hope you enjoy this event. I hope you take some inspiration and some motivation from this, and continue to engage with DIT as we move down the path of the next school year. And now I have the pleasure of introducing our Chancellor, Richard Carranza, and I'll introduce him with this little note that he keeps reminding me every time we talk technology. He tells me, Anurag, I know enough to be dangerous about technology. And he says it in a way that he's trying to say that he does not know enough about technology. Trust me, he knows a lot about technology, and he knows, and he has a very clear vision for what technology can do for our system. And I continue to tell him that we need him at that level. We need him to continue to challenge DIT, challenge me, challenge my team, so that we can deliver for our students. We need him to continue to push us so that we can be at that level, high performing level, that we can get all these systems and these tools out to all you educators and make it work for our schools and our students. So with that, over to Chancellor Richard Carranza. Thank you very much.
Hi, Anurag. Thanks for that introduction. Hello, I'm Schools Chancellor Richard Carranza, and I want to say welcome, everyone. I'm happy to have this opportunity for the third year in a row to welcome you to the NYC Schools Tech Summit. I wish we could all be together in person, but virtual is the next best thing. I don't have to tell you that this has been an unprecedented and challenging year, but we all worked together and rose to meet our many challenges. I am so grateful to all of you and delighted to recognize the many staff members who stepped up to support our students with technology as we moved to the remote learning space. First, I want to acknowledge our EdTech teachers in our schools who so often lead the way for students and staff. We also have our SPOCs, the single point of contact for technology in schools, who are volunteers and dedicate so much to elevating the role of tech in schools. Thank you as well to our administrators and educators who moved on to new platforms to engage staff and families in new ways. There are also our school webmasters who work to make their websites accessible to all families and students and ensured that their school sites offered the most up-to-date information that students needed. Thank you to everyone at DIIT who supported schools across the DOE, getting critical technology to students and ensuring that the technology they had in their homes was working. Our technology partners also stepped up in a big way, providing hundreds of classes to staff across the DOE so they too could use technology effectively and efficiently. Thank you. And finally, thank you to our teachers who went above and beyond to learn in those classes so that they could best support their students and families. We have also made immense progress in closing the digital divide with our families and have worked to distribute devices into every student's hands. This included schools quickly distributing equipment that was already in school buildings and partnering with DIIT, which distributed 300,000 iPads in a month's time. We've ordered another 40,000 for the fall and we're ready to go. Certainly, we've had some learning curves, but we all got the hang of the digital platforms that were new to some of us. And Microsoft Teams, Zoom, Google Meet ended up connecting us in ways we never been connected before. We even eased sign-on to applications like TeachHub and Google Classroom by streamlining the process for students and staff, all while ensuring our platforms and applications were both safe and secure for all. There is no question remote learning is EdTech in action. And during this pandemic, we saw colleagues coming together with new levels of collaboration and problem solving. We saw how valuable educational technology is to maintain instructional continuity as learning went remote. And we did this with tens of thousands of educators who sought out and attended 3,000 professional learning sessions that we offered. Our highest need students, those in shelters and in foster care, who were the first to receive our LTE-enabled iPads. Parents working more closely than ever with their children to support their learning, and teachers becoming coaches and tech-savvy ones at that. To be sure, this has been an incredibly difficult time. So many of our friends and co-workers fought through their own personal loss and isolation. Sadly, we lost 79 DOE employees to COVID-19. We will never be the same without the loved ones, friends, and colleagues who gave our lives and work true meaning. We will never, ever forget a single one of them. But I am so grateful we had the technology to stay connected, to check in on one another. For all this, again, I cannot thank you, DIIT, and our partners enough. Ultimately, our work is about equity. That means that even when we face challenges none of us could have imagined, we ensure that we meet the needs of everyone in our school communities. To put this responsibility in context, consider this. 20% of New Yorkers identify as having a disability, and that doesn't even include individuals who use assistive devices such as glasses. Almost 50% of New Yorkers speak a language other than English at home. It's imperative that our schools are inclusive so that all members of our communities can access the information they need to succeed. We must ensure that all our learning materials and all the products we buy are digitally accessible, and that those we partner with share our core values of equity and digital accessibility. That is why we have offered over 550 training sessions on creating accessible digital content to more than 2,600 educators, most through remote learning. That is still a small percentage of our 180,000 staff members, so please, please spread the word, as there will be more courses that your colleagues can complete over the summer and the fall. Finally, I want to touch on digital citizenship and the role it plays in digital education. None of this work can happen without first setting up our digital spaces for success. This means that we need to teach our students what that means and learn and implement it ourselves. When we learn how to best conduct ourselves online, in webinars, in meetings with colleagues, and through social media, we can model these practices for others. As teachers, we set our students up for success by establishing norms in our physical classroom, and the same is true for our online classrooms. We want our students to feel respected, valued, and safe, no matter what the platform. And teaching in an online space still means that we establish those same levels of expectations. In closing, I want to reiterate how far we have come in transitioning to remote learning. The coronavirus may have forced us to reinvent the nation's largest school system, but to me, the during COVID time is as stunningly impressive as what came before it. I know this because over the past few months, I have seen children complete science experiments in your kitchens, debate the United States Constitution in Spanish from their living rooms, and join band practice and master Shakespeare on Zoom. And this will continue during the summer school and through the fun and intellectually stimulating remote learning resources we have shared with our families. While I know that the future feels uncertain, I also know that we are headed toward a world in which our students will be much better equipped to be resilient, innovative, and ready for whatever is thrown at them. Our students will be stronger because they have an incredible team of people like you who are committed to doing their best in service of them. Thank you for all you have done and will continue to do for our 1.1 million students. Please take care of yourselves and let's take care of each other.
And I'm back. Thank you, Anurag and Chancellor Carranza. You can follow all of today's speakers on Twitter and remember to use hashtag NYC Schools Tech to keep the conversation going. In between each segment, we have breaks planned, so you can grab a drink of water, answer an email, or do whatever you need to do. Next up is our first featured speaker.
Hi there, all NYC Schools Tech participants. My name is Dee Lanier, and I'm a transformation agent with Link. I'm an educator, sociologist, and equity enthusiast. Remember when we would cringe at hearing words at every tech conference like 21st century learning, or thinking out of the box, or data-driven, or pick your edu jargon? All of that has been replaced, it seems, with terms like remote learning and distance learning and these unprecedented times. It's probably fair to say that we would gladly bring back the old days where buzzwords were much more benign and teaching and learning was happening in person. We'll get back there eventually. The plans are not finalized and subject to change. The one thing that remains constant is all of our dedication to help students grow. A little bit about myself. I started my education career as a complete imposter. No, seriously. I have a background in sociology and educational theory, but as you know, theory and practice are two totally different things. My first entry point in teaching started in tutoring, then in leading a character ed program, and finally, my first full-time role was in discipline. I got in trouble a lot over processing with students, hearing what they were going through, helping them consider alternative methods of handling conflicts, etc. I did such a bad job at discipline that I was actually asked to be a teacher instead. Thinking that was a temporary move, I became a lateral entry teacher and later an administrator and tech coach. 10 years later, I moved from that school to another, to a short stint as a nonprofit head, to back to the classroom, to eventually becoming a mentor for over 60 tech and instructional coaches over the last 3 years as a collaborative partner with Google for Education and Digital Promise. I now continue in the role of a coaching / mentoring with Link as a transformation agent, like I said. So that's a lot of what I do, but that's just a little bit of who I am. Much the same way that I've been an educational vagabond, I've had the same privilege of surveying the landscape of school offerings across the U.S. in a support role. But before that, I was a student. I was a student that was raised in Los Angeles. I lived across the U.S., attended 5 different high schools before finishing my last 3 years in a Department of Defense school in Wiesbaden, Germany. Schools are diverse. Schools and districts are extremely different. Teachers and counselors and principals are the surrogate parents and community builders and expectation builders of young minds, meaning both young students and young teachers. As a Black man, know that I was at one time a Black child. So when you look at kids in your district and when you see the ones that get in trouble for talking too much, the ones that have potential, or the ones that even excel, but you worry if they will fall victim to the streets, gang culture, turf wars, police profiling, and police brutality, whatever, know that you may be looking at me. The same young man that experienced your education, learned to code switch through cultural conditioning, and is now one of your featured speakers, speaking to you and learning with you. NYC DOE, I'm grateful that I do not need to earn a seat at the table of your setting. And you do not need to prove yourself or your commitment to me. I've already worked with some of your administrators and coaches over the last couple of years. For some of you, we've never met. We will connect virtually, but I look forward to the day that we can connect face to face. See you soon.
Hello, my name is Principal Derek Cradle, representing the high school sports management, the one and only. I quickly want to talk to you about our journey during remote learning. Amazing. Of course, Chancellor Carranza speaks to setting up this remote model in 3 days. On this 69th day, I come to you and I share with you the most important and probably most valuable experience for me was going out into the community, delivering senior bags. That is the paradigm shift. Schools are always in receivership of young people, right? However, we knew the difficulties and challenges of remote learning during a pandemic. That was clear. That was clear. We were working from home. Kids were working from home. But we had to take a different type of inventory. We had to go outside of ourselves. We needed to go to those communities, deliver those bags. And when you get a chance, or when my people got a chance to do that, they looked up and down the streets. They looked all the way up to the top of those buildings. They smelled the environment. They saw the vibes of the community. Very easy for people to scrutinize the engagement during remote learning. Why kids weren't doing things, why the challenges existed. And I just want to circle back that empathy and love was what made remote learning work. Empathy and love. Empathy versus scrutiny is what makes remote learning work. And that tour, us dropping off those bags, that was a dream come true for me as a principal, as an educator. So I want you all to know it's great to have the tech, but it is more important to have the relationship. Build that relationship currency. Go outside yourself. Go outside your space. Get beyond your screen. Go to the community. Drop off a bag. Drop off a card. See the parent. Let the parent see you. Pull up to their neighborhood. It's okay. And it makes things much better.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jim Steyer, the founder and CEO of Common Sense Media, the nation's leading media and advocacy organization for kids in this crazy digital world that we all live in. And thank you so much for joining us today. And most of all, for the amazing work that you do for kids and schools all across New York. I am a former New York City public school teacher. And my mom taught in the New York City public schools for nearly 40 years. So I'm incredibly proud to welcome you today and to honor you for the commitment that you give as educators to the kids in this state, in this city, and in this country that need it the most. Obviously, these are incredibly challenging times for all of us. And we at Common Sense are really committed to partnering with our friends at the New York City DOE to provide quality digital citizenship curricula, high quality professional development content, and guidance that can help empower literally hundreds of thousands of kids and families all across the New York area. It's obviously a major change for all of us in this COVID-19 epidemic to have to involve distance learning and to move to a type of schooling that's very unusual for my kids, for your kids, and for all of us. And you guys have stepped up and done an incredible job at a time when kids are increasingly glued to screens like this. And you are incredibly important players in making this transition as positive as possible for the kids and families that you serve. One thing that's really clear to all of us at Common Sense is that digital citizenship and digital literacy, an area that we actually pioneered about 10 years ago, is critically important today, more important than ever before. About 10 years ago, we launched the field of digital citizenship in partnership with Howard Gardner, the esteemed Harvard Ed School professor, and launched the version 1.0 of the curriculum that today is in the vast majority of New York City schools. It goes beyond the fundamentals of basic digital literacy around things like cyberbullying, but helps kids address real world dilemmas, real challenges that they face, that their parents face, and that we as educators face indeed. In this 24/7 digital world that we're all growing up in and raising kids in, the importance of teachers and teaching young people to make smart, ethical, responsible decisions can never be overstated. So basically, I just want to thank you and salute you for the great work you do. As a teacher myself, and as someone who thinks of himself as a teacher, educator, and parent, I couldn't be more proud to welcome you to this event, but also to once again, and as many times as we can do, thank you for the commitment and leadership and sheer hard work that it takes to be a good teacher and an educator. Bless you for all your work. Thank you so much for being a partner with Common Sense Media. And I hope you have a fabulous session today with all of the experts we're bringing to you. Thanks again, and we look forward to working with you and for you for many years to come.
Hi, my name is Shira Moskowitz. I'm a 5th grade special education teacher at the Children's Lab School. I want to highlight some successes that I felt during the challenging times in distance learning. One is I want to shout out my entire staff at my school for jumping on board, not saying I can't, which is something that I faced in teaching in general. Teachers really just embraced and went with it and learned so much, and the teacher learning was reflected in the student learning. I also want to highlight one of my students who is selective mute, and learning has been a challenge for him all the way up until 5th grade. He had just begun to communicate verbally when we went remote, and my biggest fear was that he would have setbacks and not be able to communicate, and not being there in person with him would prevent me from accessing him as a student and him accessing me as a teacher. But I really have to say that the technology tools that we used, using Loom to pre-record lessons so that he could watch them at his own pace and watch them as many times as he needed to feel comfortable with the content, working in Google Meet in small groups so that he felt comfortable being present, engaging, and really allowing him to have a voice. We ended our year with project-based learning, answering the question, how can our students make changes in their environments after Corona? And something that I never would have expected was to receive a video response from him, where he was comfortable sharing his voice, not just with me, but with the public. And I'm so proud, and I know this is something that I might not have even hoped for in the traditional classroom setting. And my goal to walk away is to try to expect the unexpected for my students, because I know that they can do it.
Hello, New York City educators. My name is Jenny Magera, and I'm the Global Head of Education Impact at Google. Before that, I was a classroom teacher in Chicago Public Schools for about a decade, a building leader, and a school district administrator, and have done a lot of work to support and work with educators all over the world. In all of my time in education, I have never, ever encountered a challenge that we're facing right now. Back in February, when this first began to directly impact North American schools, I was just starting my new role at Google, and I was not aware of how pervasive this was going to become in such a quick amount of time. Looking at my friends and former colleagues who are still in classrooms and trying to figure out how to bridge the equity gaps that distance learning is presenting, how to make sure they're meeting the needs of their students both academically but also social and emotionally, and balance homeschooling their own children, taking care of loved ones, or just staying healthy and sane was so much throughout the months of February and March, April. As the world has become even more complex with the rise in awareness and acknowledgement of systemic racism and racial inequities in the US and beyond, it's become an even more complex landscape for educators like all of you who are trying to serve their students' needs while also do good for the world and think about how we're modeling the best versions of ourselves and trying to make the world a better place and acknowledge these systemic inequities for all of our children and all of the individuals and citizens in our communities. So given all of those challenges and all of those difficult barriers, one might think that educators would give up. But that's not the case, as you know. And I am impressed, inspired, just taken aback in so many positive ways by the hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of stories that I've seen firsthand from, again, my own network of friends and colleagues who are still in classrooms, virtual, that they may, and some of them who've gone back in some places around the world. but also the work that's being done by so many to make sure that we're standing strong for our children and putting their needs first. The level of innovation that has come across in the few short months that we've been battling this pandemic has been incredible. It's been breathtaking. I've spent the past decade of my career really trying to support and encourage educators to take risks and to leverage digital tools to solve really difficult problems. And there have been so many instances where people have really risen to that challenge and done incredible things. But all of that innovation, all of that hard work, additive cannot compare to the amount of problem solving that has happened since early 2020 to now. It's been difficult and it hasn't been pretty. No one wanted to go home from school one day and be told the next morning that, hey, sorry, we're not going back and you have to figure this all out overnight with no immediate professional development, training, or support. I know school leaders who are scrambling to find trainings and figure out ways to provide that learning for their staffs, and so many have done it in so many thoughtful ways. I look to New York City and I see how quickly you brought up a working group and created supports for the educators across such a giant city with such diverse needs in such quick time. And honestly, it's really, really incredible. I know there's a lot of learning to do, a lot of growth, and a lot of opportunity for improvement, but there always is. That's the beauty of education. It's about growth, it's about learning, it's about improvement. But I think it's a really great time at the beginning of this new school year to take a breath and look at all of the challenges that have already been addressed. That yes, there's more to do. Yes, we can continue to be better, but a lot has been done already, and it's deeply impressive. In this time of challenge and community change, we need educators more than we ever have before. Schools are such a great support for students when they need it most. And so I want to thank each and every educator in New York City and beyond who is continuing to show up every day, whether virtually or in person, to care for these young people and to make sure that our next generation is taken care of in ways mind, body, and soul. The whole child needs all of us, and we're really there for you. Speaking for myself and for Google, we're going to do our best to be partners in this work and to make sure that we're helping to create that positive impact and support all of you in the best way we can. And feel free to share your feedback directly to me. You can reach me on Twitter at @MissMagera, or by clicking on the feedback links on any of our Google products and sharing your thoughts and telling us how we can be better partners in this work. Thank you again for all you're doing. I wish for you a safe, healthy, and thoughtful school year ahead, and I look forward to seeing what new challenges we can solve with new innovations.
Hey folks, I'm Josh Thurn and I'm a junior at Beacon High School here in Manhattan. I wanted to take this moment to thank our educators for guiding us through remote learning. I mean, if you think about it, this was an incredible moment. We went from a completely brick and mortar school system to a completely virtual school system, which, might I add, we'd never done before, in the space of about a week. But the thing that I'm most proud of our teachers for is not just using remote learning to continue their current teaching practices, but using technology to enhance teaching rather than just support it, right? Things like virtual museum exhibitions that weren't really focused on in the classroom are now the norm in virtual spaces across the city. And I think that that's incredible. I have the utmost amount of respect for all of our teachers who have done things like that, who have used programs like Google Classroom to not only support their teaching, but also to actively grow classroom engagement. And I think that's just incredible. So I wanted to take this moment to thank you all. And by you all, I don't mean just teachers. Office staff, school aides, you name it, they had a contribution. They made a contribution, to this moment. And I think it's very important that we acknowledge everyone that has gotten us here. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Hello from Corkin Island. I'm Laura Kalbag, a designer, developer and co-founder of Small Technology Foundation. 3 years ago, I wrote a book about web accessibility called Accessibility for Everyone. In the same way we might make buildings more accessible to disabled people, we can create content, websites and other technology to be more accessible too. Better accessibility usually improves the accessibility and experience for everybody, regardless of disability. We tend to use this as a selling point. But accessible technology is often the difference between a disabled person being able to access products, services, and education, or being entirely shut out. This is especially true for this moment in time. Right now, we're relying on technology to keep us connected, informed, entertained. We're trying to sustain some kind of work, education, life in isolation. With restrictions on physical access and pressure on every kind of resource, disabled people's lives are more severely impacted than most. When we focus on creating accessible technology, we're usually aiming to make it easy to see. For people who are blind or have visual impairment, we can ensure our technology is usable with assistive technologies like screen readers, or provide an alternate means to access our technology that doesn't require sight. For example, on the web, we can provide alternative text for images, like describing the image for those who can't see it. For sighted people, we can make our fonts nice and big, use a font that's easy to read, check the text and background contrast is sufficient. All of these actions can provide a huge impact for relatively little work. Make it easy to hear. For people who are deaf or have a hearing impairment, we can ensure our video and audio has alternative formats to make our content more accessible, like closed captions, sign language interpretation, translation, transcript. They'll make all the difference, and also benefit people who are in shared environments. They might not want to be creating noise or sharing what they're listening to. Make it easy to understand. For people who are neurodiverse, non-native speakers, those that have a low literacy level or learning disabilities, we can make our information and interfaces as simple and straightforward and easy to understand as possible. Plain writing is such a valuable and underrated skill. We need to make it easy to interact. For people who have difficulties with fine motor control, things like bigger buttons and links can make an interface much easier to use. Many people use alternative inputs like keyboard navigation, voice navigation, switch navigation, that's naming just a few of them, and we can make more usable interfaces by testing with these assistive technologies. We must avoid making assumptions about the people who are using our technology and which format they might prefer, especially the people whose needs differ from our own. While we might be experienced or even experts in our field, we don't know anyone's needs or how to accommodate their needs better than they do. It's important to listen to people, especially disabled people, rather than forcing our own preferences and assumptions on them. We've also got to accommodate the parts of the experience we have no control over. What if a person is using an old or a low-end device? What if their data plan restricts how much they can download? What if they don't get great signal at home or usually only have access to the internet via an internet cafe or their local library? Do they even have reliable access to the internet under lockdown or quarantine? Finally, we have to be aware of the risks and harms that technology may present to those that use it. We must protect the privacy and security of those who use what we create. Let's take Zoom, for example. Zoom has long been notorious for privacy violations and refuses to offer encryption for free accounts so it can easily pass information to law enforcement. Yet, Zoom is known for being one of the most accessible options for video calls. It supports live captioning, simultaneous translation, as well as having good support for screen readers. People who are aware of Zoom's issues are made to choose between access and their rights. That's not a fair choice, especially for people from marginalised groups. If you're disabled, black, indigenous, person of colour, LGBTQ, in poverty, you're particularly vulnerable to privacy harms, especially if you're at the intersection of two of those groups. You're more likely to be targeted by law enforcement or authoritarian governments and more likely to suffer as a result of discrimination. Unfortunately, a great deal of mainstream technology is not only inaccessible, but also tracks and monetizes people's personal information as a business model. We need to be careful to understand every platform, every software, every tool we use or recommend as part of our work. It's our responsibility to seek out and endorse more rights-respecting alternatives. And we must not collaborate with or normalize the technology that does exploit people and infringes on their human rights. Many of the adaptations that have been made to help us continue some kind of normality in 2020, more options for home delivery, like live streamed events, remote working. These are all accommodations that have been requested by disabled people for years. As Alice Wong recently pointed out in an article in Esquire, normal was actually not great for a lot of people. Be assured that what you do will make a difference. Let's try to make it a positive difference. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sadie Paulson, and I would like to share information about myself and what incited my big moment in life. Let me start with the fact that I was born with cerebral palsy, with very little hope in life for adulthood. Cerebral palsy, CP, is a broad term used to describe a group of chronic palsies, disorders that impair control of movement due to damage to the developing brain. CP is a non-progressive brain disorder, meaning the brain damage does not continue to worsen throughout life. There are many different types of CP. The two types that I have are called spastic CP and athetoid CP. Spastic CP causes stiffness and creates difficulties with my movement of balance, and athetoid CP is characterized by my involuntary and uncontrolled movement. In my life, I have to overcome these personal challenges to thrive in my adult life. I have been blessed with achieving these challenges with the help of a few talented individuals. When I think about technology, I'm imagining no limitation, due to the possible growth and changes in development on a daily basis concerning the industry. To simplify the term technology as it concerns me, on a daily adventures, my day begins with the use of my electrical wheelchair, that I control with my head pressing on the headrest. Then I move to my MacBook Pro, which along with my iPad and iPhone connects me to the world outside my home. I am able to control all these devices using my switches on the headrest. This technology has opened up many new doors for myself and given me a career choice that my CP does not limit my abilities to be successful.
Hello everyone. I would like to talk about creating accessible digital content for your students. It is especially important now that many you are teaching online. But creating digital accessible content is not only important for online content but for all your educational content. My name is Sadie Paulson, and I have cerebral palsy. Why is creating accessible digital content important? Every student should have an opportunity for learning and developing their minds. Learning can be fun and exciting for students and teachers. However, it can be extremely challenging if not impossible if the content is not accessible. All students have different learning styles and preferences, and it can be extremely challenging especially for a student with a disability. Because today's content is digital or can be made digital, teachers today have the tools to level the playing field for all students. They can make that possible by making content accessible from the beginning. Creating accessible books, accessible text, accessible videos, and accessible audio not only levels the playing field but gives all students the opportunity to access the education they want and need. When you are teaching your class, you need to keep in mind that all students learn differently and that not all students can access your curriculum the same way. Look for new ways to teach and engage all your students and help them learn. First, you need to make your content accessible, and that is critical. Next, you need to make it exciting and engaging so your students can develop a love of learning. Your students will develop a love of learning even without you being right there. You can do it. We don't know what the future classroom will look like, but you can be instrumental in determining what that classroom will be. A classroom where all content is accessible to every student and every student can learn at their own pace and by their own learning style. A class where students have a love for learning and the only barrier is time. You have a big impact on your students, so make it count. Be that teacher. Thank you for this opportunity to talk with you.
Hey everybody, I'm Jackie Patanio and my son is Jordan Epstein. He is a kindergartner at PS 69 in Staten Island. He will be in first grade come September. Switching to remote learning in March was definitely tricky. He was used to being around students and being around teachers in real life, and then coming home to working with mom and me having to be his primary teacher was a little bit difficult. But his teachers provided us with information, PDFs every day, and gave us videos of themselves, doing read alouds, they're doing their sight work. So they were able to engage asynchronously with their teachers through video, which was very helpful because it helped them build some autonomy. So then from that point, they started putting in live meets once a week, which helped with the social emotional component. So they were able to see each other every Monday from 1:50 to about 2:15. They had conversations, and they were still doing things that they would do in the classroom, using hand signals and having those conversational pieces that they did actually in the building. So that worked really well. His STEM teacher, they used Seesaw when they were in the building. And so when they came to remote learning, it was a very seamless transition. So his teacher would do her meets and record them and do them live Monday and Wednesday. If you couldn't get to the live recording, she would post them on Seesaw, so that when Jordan wasn't able to attend, he would just go onto his journal on Seesaw, watch what was happening in STEM, and complete his tasks, which she would put for the week, whether it was a new thing on coding, or if they were actually doing something, building it, and then uploading photos on there. So there have definitely been some challenges with all the remote learning in terms of finding the time, but his school has really done a great job with accommodating parents who are able to do things in real time versus synchronous and asynchronous. We're really looking forward to next year and doing that blended model in the building and remotely.
Wow, we're almost at the end of the summit, and I think we all made it through in one piece. Hooray for us. I want to thank all of our speakers and all of you for being part of our first virtual summit. I hope to see all of you next year in person. Now, it's time to bring on our closer, my esteemed colleague, Jason Levy, the man who started this whole wild and crazy thing back in 2013. Calling Jason Levy.
Hi, Jane. Thank you for an amazing event. It's so great that so many of you are still here with us. Hopefully, you've heard or learned something at this event that has inspired you and even changed you, your understanding or your perspective. Speaking of change, let's take a midsummer New York minute to reflect on how the past few months have changed us and our craft. It has been truly remarkable to see how many of our colleagues have taken on brand new skill sets and functions and systems, all while the professional context we've always relied on, like schools and offices, have remained largely empty. In particular, I'd like to thank my DIT colleagues, including our ed tech teams, for immediately adjusting to our new reality and providing countless opportunities for learning and support to our DOE community. Change is never easy, especially when unpredictable and unprecedented. Yet for New York City educators, there is no more defining hallmark than the willingness to adapt. Innovation never stops and never sleeps. And like our subways, never stops running. Innovative change is just like New York itself, relevant, fascinating, and generally cool. And when our grandchildren listen to historical podcasts about New York City, 2020 will be the episode where, despite the odds, our collective educational practices and mindsets expanded and advanced. Usually at this point in the summit, we recognize an annual cohort of change agents who have demonstrated excellence in technology. And while we're not able to enjoy each other's company in an air-conditioned auditorium, today should be no different. So on behalf of DIIT, it is my honor to announce this year's nominees for the Excellence in Technology Award. The nominees are DOE employees of Staten Island, DOE employees of Brooklyn, DOE employees of Queens, DOE employees of the Bronx, DOE employees of Manhattan, teachers, paras, administrators, and school support staff, central offices, divisions, and teams, community-based organizations, parents, guardians, and families, and last but not least, our students. And this year's Excellence in Technology Award goes to each and every one of you, every single DOE stakeholder. Congratulations to our award winners. Thank you. Thank you for supporting our schools and for being amazing partners. We want to recognize our parents, our guardians, and families who have become co-teachers themselves. To our amazing students, you give us countless reasons every day to keep refining and redefining how, when, and where we teach you and you teach us. And the show is not over. Don't forget to attend the vendor floor. See you at the next summit, hopefully in person.
Welcome to the end of our summit. Come visit our vendor floor. You can find it at diit.nyc/vendor. There you can visit the various vendors and learn more about what's new, and even set up a time to chat with the vendor. This is a place that you can continue to chat with and learn from vendors all year long. We also invite you to share your takeaways on social media using our hashtag NYC Schools Tech.